What's crack-lacking? It's your boy Roshmo, just in case you did not know. So, back again for another season preview. This time we're going over the despicable, the hated, the revolted New England Patriots. I'm a Dolphins fan, so this is going to be fun. Bragging on the Patriots. Or not. They actually are a pretty good team. Minus Tom Brady. Let that be the key. But go ahead and become a bro and subscribe. Leave a thumbs up if you enjoy the content. Share the video. There's plenty of videos on the channel. Go ahead, indulge, just take it all in. And just quick update with Madden. I'm actually going to start recording on Madden videos Friday, I believe. Thursday or Friday. And so I'll have a series starting next week for y'all. As well as I got some other videos I'm doing a little more research for. It's gonna be kind of like I guess draft prospect sleeper videos before we get into the 2021 draft, just because there's a few prospects that I've noticed with Mel Kiper and Todd McShay's, I guess, most recent list. I mean, it came out a week or so ago, but a couple of guys that I was like, wow, man, they really didn't highlight. I think that really deserve some of that spotlight, so I'm gonna give it to them, whatever that means. So let's go ahead, let's get in. We're going to talk about the roster first and foremost, and we're going to take a look at the roster here. These aren't my starters, keep in mind. I'll get to those guys later. But biggest question will be, Jarrett Stidham. I mean, he's not Tom Brady, but who can be? And it's going to be interesting with Stidham, just because with the legacy left behind from like almost 20 years of Tom Brady, it's just gonna be interesting because it's Tom Brady. Like, like, and people are gonna be like, oh no, we're not, no one's gonna compare him to Brady, but that's always gonna be the comparison. With Stidham though, you got a guy with an extremely strong arm, but he did have some accuracy concerns coming out of Auburn. Let alone Auburn, I don't think is a great system for a quarterback. Also, don't mind my eye. I got my allergies are just flaring right now. It's been windy last couple of days. But yeah, accuracy's been kind of a big issue, which kind of is a little scary in this type of offense because they like going underneath a lot. And we'll get to why that might be more the case this year. But I think it's a rough road ahead for Stidham. Already you got replace a legend, probably one of the best quarterbacks to ever play the game in Tom Brady. So it's, and I hate to say it, really, if they kind of dud here, if they end up in the top 5, best believe they potentially will make a play at a quarterback. Stidham, he's not too far into his development. I don't think he's too, like, honestly, I would rather have a Trevor Lawrence, Justin Fields over him, maybe even a Trey Lance, a Brock Purdy. Like, there's a lot of first round capable, like, this is a really good quarterback class. So it's going to be rough. This is, I think, unfairly a make or break year for him. So we'll see what he can do, but let's first look at the offensive line, because I think that's the best thing going for him and what he can do this season. He did look good in the preseason last year, but take that with a grain of salt. So looking at the offensive line, Isaiah Wynn, because before he got hurt, he actually played very well. So I think he's actually going to be really good. He's going to be a solid left tackle for this team. They did bring in Justin Herron, but I think he's more so maybe a eventual potential replacement for Marcus Cannon, who has been pretty good in his own right. So solid tackles. You go to the interior, you got two of the best in the game, Joe Thuney and Shaq Mason. I love the addition of Michael Onwenu, who's one of my favorites in the draft, one of my big sleepers. Big guy that is very underrated as an athlete, and I think he will be very good in this offense. And then also, if Thuney they end up maybe trading him or not being able to get a deal done after the season, Froho from Arkansas, the former rookie, he's now going into his second year. He was hurt really a majority of last year. He's a guy also to keep your eye on, taking that spot in the future. So again, a lot of good stuff. David Andrews comes back healthy. That's warming. That's great. You gotta love it. The Patriots, when it comes to the playmakers, they made a move to try to get the tight end position looking a lot better, going after Devin Asiasi from UCLA. A guy, he looks the part of like a traditional tight end, but he does have some very good playmaking skills. He progressively got better as a blocker as the season went on at UCLA. Keep in mind, he was only a one-year starter, redshirt sophomore, so there will be a learning curve there. Dalton Keene was a really good athlete. I thought they got out of Virginia Tech. That was very underutilized in that Virginia Tech offense. So you got two guys there I think you will see plenty of. You could say Lacoste maybe might get in the mix there, but I think it's definitely going to probably be those two guys. And then let's talk about the playmakers, because honest to goodness, I think Neil Harry is going to make a move to the slot. He was actually really good in the slot last season for the Patriots. He doesn't really offer much on the outside. He struggled to separate, so that typically tells me you're probably better as a slot player if you can't separate on the outside, which is fine. Julian Edelman's fine playing on the outside. You can move him inside at times. So those are two very good options, but then you kind of get messy here because Mohamed Sanu was another guy who kind of excels in the slot role. So him on the outside, we'll see. Biggest problem for this team, they don't have playmakers downfield. Like last season, probably their best downfield threat, Philip Dorsett, didn't even get that many shots. I think he had like 16 or 18 shots on 20 plus yards or more, on passes that are 20 plus yards or more. And second was Julian Edelman at 14, I believe. So this team, which is a shame because the guy's got a ton of arm talent, but now you're asking him to do something that I don't know if he's going to be comfortable doing, and that's making decisions on the short to intermediate level. We'll see. The really only real other actual deep threats on this team, you could maybe say Marquise Lee. He's coming off years of injury, so we'll see. Jeff Thomas, if he makes the roster, he's kind of in the Philip Dorsett mold, but smaller. And I mean, Jacoby Myers, he has no juice to be of any vertical threat. So we'll see. I think there's a ton of concern. I think this team might turn into a dink and dunk team, which is fine if they could, as long as they can move the ball, that's okay. Luckily, they have a weapon in the backfield like James White that can do that. He's in the last year of his contract. Keep that in mind. We might see some JJ Taylor in that role this year because JJ Taylor is a beast. He's a monster. Yes, he's kind of a gimmicky player, but that's perfect. I think he could fill the James White role just fine in the future when his number is called. Then you have Sony Michel, who he can be a pass catcher in the backfield, but you're mainly asking him to pound the rock. He didn't really do that efficiently last year. James White actually ended up seeing more snaps than Sony Michel last season. So hopefully he could maybe get back to that because he looked really good the year before. And then I think we're going to see less of Rex Burkhead because Damian Harris might come and take that role. That's just a hunch. So offense, there's questions. I'm just saying there's questions. So let's go ahead. Let's just move to the defense. And defense has always been the strongest part of this team. And let's start with actually who I think is going to be the starter at the nose tackle. He's not really going to, he's going to be playing the A gap. But Adam Butler, this guy, very underrated. For the amount of snaps he got last year, he actually did pretty well. He produced 26 pressures, I believe, and that was on 300 some snaps. So I think he's going to be a guy that will be heavily used in this rotation next to Lawrence, a guy who, well, he's very good in his own right. He does a lot, and he does a lot pretty well. Then you have like Wise Jr., who is better in, I guess, how you would say, moderation. He's better in moderation. He actually had a really good pass rush grade last season, but he was also held under 300 snaps. So I think using him intermediately is actually probably work best. Yes, you got Bo Allen, but he's an older vet. He's coming in there really just to serve as a rotation player. I definitely think Adam Butler will probably be the guy they want to take a step forward this season. Of course, you got John Simon, the guy, classy vet, played extremely well last year, played over 800 snaps last year. He's going to come in, and I expect a little bit of the same from him. Actually, I think he was tied, was he? No, he wasn't. He had 4 sacks, 24 pressures, but it was 500 snaps, excuse me. I was thinking of Van Noy, which I will bring him up in a minute. But yeah, he should be fine in his role. He's going to probably have, I think, Derek Rivers behind him because Kyle Van Noy no longer on the team. Now you're missing 800 snaps. Who did good in limited snaps last year? Chase Winovich. He was one of my favorites in the draft before. I thought he was a first rounder. The dude goes to the 3rd round. What the heck? I don't know, right? But he ended up tailing 8 sacks? I think 7 sacks. 7 sacks over the course of just under 300 snaps. So I expect him to take a big step forward I guess, for this team. I expect him to get a lot of snaps. There we go. And then we have a guy that I don't think we're going to see a lot of this year. We might. Joshua Uche. This guy was one of my favorites in the draft. I know I say that a lot, but I mean it. I loved this guy. I actually had him. I had him as a 2nd round talent, kind of flirted with late first. I loved what he can do because it is exactly what they ask, or at least asked, of Jamie Collins. The guy, he can drop back. He is a very good athlete like that. I said that if you look at any of my edge videos, I talk about how he came into the Senior Bowl and he looked better in coverage than Zach Bond, who was actually trying to transition to a linebacker. This guy, he's a pretty good pass rusher as well, whether it be him making a move on the inside or he has a good bend around the edge. I think he will be used in a similar fashion as to Jamie Collins. How much he will be used this year, that's yet to be seen. Then, of course, you got Dante Hightower and then probably Juwan Bentley, who Bentley has played pretty well in his own right. Another guy I think probably to watch out for is Anthony Jennings, who might be used more around the line of scrimmage in a run stop into maybe, if you want to say, pass rush role. But a guy that I think will take over for Dante Hightower in the future. I kind of comped him to Dante Hightower, or at least one in progress, just because he's not that good or not that explosive as a pass rusher. But long arms, he can bat balls at the line. He's got really good upper body strength. So I thought he was perfect for the Patriots, and they ended up getting him. Literally, the Patriots were the only team I was willing to mock him to. And then the secondary, guess what? Secondary is a banger. They return a lot of good players with some nice additions. You could talk about Stephon Gilmore. Probably was among the best corners in the league. I think Richard Sherman was, but you can make a very good case for Stephon Gilmore, who was literally, it's like 1A, 1B. There we go. On the other side of him, this is where things get a little funky, because a lot of people want to say J.C. Jackson. He became a starter, I believe, in week 12. At least full-time starter, and he played pretty well in that role. But someone who played actually extremely well in that role and then got hurt, saw a little time here and there, was Jason Mccrory. Yes, he's an older player, but I think both these guys are going to see. I think they're gonna. You're gonna see maybe a healthy rotation until one of them really kind of emerges as the true starter. I think it'll be interesting there. On top of that, in the slot, you will have Jonathan Jones, who was very good in that role. And also keep in mind, Miles Bryant. They drafted out of Washington. He projected as one of the top slot receivers in this draft, or slot corners in this draft. So expect him maybe not to get too much time early on, but him to be in those sub packages to some degree. And then, I mean, if you want to take a look after that, there ain't much really to talk about. Maybe Jawan Williams. That's about it. But they have plenty of good corners. In the at safety, Devin Mccrory, he's fantastic. He's fabulous. He's going to be starting one spot. And then they like to have their other safety kind of be the guy that guards the tight end, kind of comes up on the line of scrimmage. Patrick Chung, he's been that guy for, I mean, almost feels like maybe 10 years. But he didn't play particularly well last year. That's why they brought in a guy like Adrian Phillips, who has played well. Granted, it's been in limited time. He did have a forearm injury last year, so he didn't play much of last season. But he's very underrated. He's a quality player and a guy that I think could come in and challenge for that starting role, or at least challenge for some playing time. You might want to throw Kyle Duggar's name into this, but I think he's more of a potential, right now, a backup to Devin Mccrory, and a potential probably replacement, because the dude's super athletic. I don't have no problem throwing him in the back end there. So defense, I think, still looks strong. Yes, they have some new names, some guys that are going to slowly work themselves into lineup, into snaps, and then they will be eventual stars down the road. But by no means is this a defense in any sort of transition or rebuild. This is still a very deadly defense. Let's go ahead. Let's take a look at the schedule here. So, tough schedule for the AFC, straight up. Having to face the AFC West and the NFC West is incredibly daunting, imposing, and I don't like it. Having to face teams such as your NFC champs, the 49ers, the Super Bowl champion, Kansas City Chiefs, that straight up sucks. You have a better Broncos team coming into town, as well as the Cardinals. Those teams are teams that think they have found their quarterbacks, most likely. Hopefully they have, and they took a lot of steps. Be extremely competitive this year. It's going to be tough sledding, and then you can't sleep on teams like Seattle Seahawks. Russell Westbrook still probably one of, if not the best quarterback in all of football. So that's a little imposing. Don't sleep on Tyrod Taylor and the Chargers. Tyrod Taylor once led the Buffalo Bills to the playoffs. The dude's a quality starter, or as a bridge quarterback. And then, I mean, what do we expect from Derek Carr / maybe Marcus Mariota of the Raiders? I don't know. As well as a Rams team that feels like it's on the decline, but they still have a ton of talent, so you can't sleep on them. So yeah, it's kind of tough on top of facing the Bills, who now look like the runaway winners of the division. A Dolphins team who has found their quarterback, and they're probably going to be facing Ryan Fitzpatrick week 1, and then week 15 you got Tua Tagovailoa after he's taken maybe 3 or 4 weeks as a starter. So that's no gimme. Sam Darnold, I mean, no one really knows what to expect from the Jets. Did they improve? People want to say yes, but they don't know. It's kind of weird. And then their other games, Baltimore Ravens, that sucks. Just straight up, as a Dolphins fan, that sucks. And the Houston Texans, who are still deadly on offense, even without DeAndre Hopkins. They bring in Brandon Cooks. They have a lot of speed. Deshaun Watson, still a quality quarterback, still a very good young quarterback. So it's going to be tough sledding regardless. And the Patriots are kind of in this funky little area where either it feels like they're going to be extremely bad, or they're going to sneakily be good and maybe a wild card team. So let's just go ahead. Let's take a look at the stars, and then I'll give you my prediction on the whole thing. And we're going to start with, of course, let me switch over. Bam, the one and only Jarrett Stidham at quarterback. And like I said, James White most likely is going to be getting more of the snaps. So I have him as a starter over Sony Michel just because snaps. Julian Edelman, Mohamed Sanu, and then, like I said, N'Keal Harry, I feel is better in the slot. At least for him, he is better in the slot. Then I got Devin Aussie as the tight end. And then Isaiah Wynn, Joe Thuney, David Andrews, Shaq Mason, Marcus Cannon, one of the best, I feel like they're underrated, but they're one of the best lines in all of football. So they got that going for them. On defense, I got Lawrence Guy and Adam Butler. I already talked about Adam Butler, how I think he will get more starts. The guy had 8 sacks last season, so don't sleep on him. John Simon, you got Chase Winovich, you got Dante Hightower along with Bentley, and then in the secondary, I got Gilmore, I got Jason McCourty. I really feel like when it's all said and done, it's going to be JC Jackson with more snaps, but I'm just going to roll with the vet here, man. I'm going to roll with the vet because actually he's kind of one of my favorite players in the league. And then Jonathan Jones, and then Patrick Chung, maybe some shades, maybe some sprinkles, maybe a bit showers of Adrian Phillips. Just saying. Devin McCourty there, that's no doubt. Let me go ahead. Let me give you a prediction. Like I said, this team's hard to predict. And really, your prediction, like when you're predicting how they're going to do this year, it's going to go one of two ways. And both of them have to do with what do you think of Jarrett Stidham. And you've heard my piece on Jarrett Stidham. Big arm, not a lot of accuracy. What are they going to be? What are the Patriots? Pretty good. They're pretty good in the short to intermediate because that's what Brady was good. That's what Brady really could do because his arm was starting to dwindle. Not to say he couldn't make the downfield throws, but they attacked where he was most effective. How much is the offense going to change with Stidham at quarterback? I really don't know. That's yet to be seen. So I'm just kind of giving you what I know, what I believe. I still think this team might be I think this team will be dinks and dunks. And when it comes to Jarrett Stidham, I don't have a lot of confidence in that. So I have them at a hot, sexy 3-13, getting their franchise quarterback, Trevor Lawrence or Justin Fields. And as a Dolphins fan, yeah, that's kind of bittersweet. Like, you gotta think, is it really worth it for the Patriots to be bad for one season to get another top flight quarterback? I honestly couldn't answer that question, but if they really bomb this year, it will be pretty sweet. But let me know what you think in the comment section below. And that's it for the video. Go ahead, do that YouTube thing. But until next time, you be easy, my friends. Later.